How are Gillityr Industries Factory Stax connected together? How long does it take? I am going to show you that a fully working factory can be up and running less than 30 minutes. Here in the grassy fields is a spot with 4 impure iron nodes. For this build, we are going to consume all 4 nodes directly into a factory via conveyors. As a demonstration, we will be building iron plates. First, let's drop down a 4-meter thick central foundation. This gives our factory floor a bit of elevation above the uneven terrain. Placing down the miners and aligning them to the foundation block helps make conveyor routing easier and cleaner. This build is meant to show the speed in which you can be operational using blueprints. It is easy to come back later and make the outside of the factory look more finished, to match the detailed interiors. I then place a 10 by 10 foundation blueprint on the central block, and make efforts to keep it clear of obstructions. Here I am adding a row of thick foundations in the front for a walkway and the rear for conveyors. Wildlife blocks the creation of foundations. Sometimes it is best to partially block them in and leave an easy way for them to escape. Eventually they will leave. If you have wildlife aggression turned on, you may have to battle them for the territory. For the first factory stacks layer, we will need to smelt iron ore into iron ingots. We will be using T7 factory stacks for this demonstration, but since all versions are functionally the same, this could easily be done using T4. Blueprint mode on the build gun can be used for this step, which perfectly aligns the factory layer to the 10 by 10 foundation blueprint we used. All Gillityr Industries Factory Stax blueprints used in this video are available for download on the Satisfactory Calculator website. I will include a link in this video description. Alternatively, simply go to the Satisfactory Calculator website and search the blueprints area for Gillityr. We will need to add 2 conveyor holes to let the iron ore into the factory. The wildlife has moved on, so we can finish our foundation extension now. There are 2 conveyor connections in this factory layer that each can handle up to 780 parts per minute, the maximum for a Mark V belt. Even when in early game placing lower tier blueprints, I prefer to plan for the long term, including consuming all available material from the miners. Maximizing the usage of the factory belts is also a goal. Since we have more miners than inputs, we will need to use a couple mergers to route everything in. Even with overclocking, 2 Mark III miners on impure nodes can only provide a combined 600 parts per minute. Luckily, there are multiple other nodes we can use later to increase the iron ore flowing into the factory. Since the goal of this video is speed, I will connect the miners a bit haphazardly. This can always be cleaned up later. Sometimes when playing Satisfactory, I find speed more important than perfection initially. As long as we plan for enough space to clean things up later, all is well. Since we are using blueprints, a full rebuild is also much easier than a manually created factory, which can take considerable amounts of time even with the mass select to delete feature. This specific connection from this miner to its merger will be rather ugly until I can come back and make it look good, or hide it entirely with a building. It is a miracle that Fixit has not yet fired me for conveyor routes like that. I much prefer to run a conveyor straight as long as possible, and then have a small correction length for misalignment correction. Angled or snaking conveyors tend to distract from an otherwise beautiful factory. Adding additional foundation extensions makes for better routing, even when trying to rush. Base output for a Mark III miner on an impure iron node is only 120 parts per minute. The factory will be underserved until we can overclock and add a couple more miners. For now, this will work for our intended need. We will now run some electrical pulls to prepare for power. Note that I mentioned only preparing, not powering everything on. In Satisfactory, it is best to double and triple check everything is ready before you turn on power to anything. Loading the wrong material into a single machine and belt can be frustrating, but doing it to 26 machines and an entire factory is a lesson in caution. Another word of advice for blueprint usage: it is important to check that you have enough power generation available before throwing the switch to a new factory. In this case, I am flush with extra power. Best not connect the actual miners until we are ready. Yet again, I have managed to build in the path of a giant flying beast. Now let's head inside to connect the power source to the first layer of this factory. To get power to the smelters, we need to connect the power source to the factory and then turn on the appropriate power circuits. The power control room is on the lowest level. The factory stack power connection is hidden inside this architectural beam. We can simply remove the beam, connect power and replace the beam. We are standing on the lowest factory level, so we can simply run power through the floor to keep the wires hidden if desired. Placing an electrical connection point on the outside can help if you need to temporarily remove some wires or reroute power later. After looking at it, I do not like the double-ended electrical outlet at the base of the stairs, so I am going to replace it with a single-sided visible only outside. Adding walls or additional foundations to meet the ground is a nice touch. Power is now available for all floors of the layer and is presented on top for layers above to connect to. We are almost ready to power on the machines, but first, we need to connect their input and output conveyors. Conveyor inputs are on the lowest floor of Gillityr Industries Factory Stax blueprints. All we have to do is connect the conveyor holes we made to the input splitter. Conveyor lift holes in these locations are not needed and can be removed for a cleaner look if desired. Now that inputs for iron ore are complete, let's go connect the outputs for the iron ingots to be delivered to the factory layer above. Smelters take in the iron ore from the floor below and process it into iron ingots to the floor above. Each smelter will need to be configured to utilize the iron ingot recipe. I will not bore you with copying and pasting the recipe across all 26 machines. Just know that it only took around a minute to execute. Now we can turn on the miners. Let's go turn on the smelters and see if they work. The power switch labeled main has to be powered on and all the smelters are on the equipment circuit, so we will need to turn that power switch as well. All lighting was built to take advantage of the new Lumen lighting engine, so most factory layers do not need the light power switch turned on. As you can see by the green indicators, all smelters are now producing iron ingots. On the top of the smelter layer, we can see the power connection and can see where the iron ingots are fed up to the next layer, which we are going to add next. A layer of 26 constructors will process iron ingots into iron plate. Due to the stairwells or conveyor holes, it is not possible to use blueprint mode on the build gun. Luckily, the blueprint layers are very easy to align with the nudge feature. We will go through a similar process for the constructor layer, but for the sake of time, I will show only brief clips for this part. First, we connect the main power from the floor below. We then connect the input and output conveyors. Finally, each constructor is configured to produce iron plate. Once all those items are complete, turn on the power switches. Our factory is now producing iron plate. We now have to configure it to either deliver the iron plate via trucks, conveyor, train or drones. For high volume demand, truck, conveyor or train would be best. For lower volume, drones can also provide excellent benefits, such as making the product available everywhere on the map all at once. Let's add a simple drone pad layer. Gillityr Industries drone blueprints utilize large spotlights for the drone pads, so we will want to turn on the light power circuit and configure a color as desired. Let's check the drone pad. It should be filling with iron plate. It seems there is a problem, and I think I already know what it is. Drone pads are configured to be bottom fed through the Z1 and Z2 conveyor lift ports. As you can see, nothing is connected. Additionally, when we configured the constructor outputs, we routed them up through the C1 and C2 conveyor lift ports. This is incorrect, but easy to fix. Here's where the first mistake was made. This is the proper location for the iron plate output. Now we can add the proper lifts to send the product up through ports Z1 and Z2. We can see the product flowing up. This is a good sign. Inside the drone port conveyor layer, we can see that Z1 routes to one drone pad and Z2 routes to the other. Drone pads only have one conveyor input. Trucks and trains have two. To compensate, two drone pads are used. We can now see that iron plates are flowing into the drone pads. Thank you for watching. Please like and subscribe to help grow the channel.